Hey fans, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf 23, Daf Chav Gimel, Daf 23 of Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Friends, let's do a little contest over here. Who could tell me what Daf Chav Gimel talks about? Daf Chav Gimel talks about Rosh Chodesh. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know. Seriously, what do you want me to tell you? It talks about Rosh Chodesh, the moon, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I know, it does. Alright, let's move on. But there's like some... it's a funny little daf. Okay, so it says the Gemara on Daf Chav Beis Amud Beis, like 5 lines from the bottom, where the Gemara begins after the Mishnah. My mashma de masin lishna de yikud hu. Our Mishnah had said, the Mishnah that we learned at the end of the day yesterday had described how initially, before problems were caused by the Kusim, when it was Rosh Chodesh, they would go up to the mountains and would light torches, and then, you kind of, from one mountain to the next, they would see that a torch was lit, and they would light them, and that's how they would, like wildfire, the Rosh Chodesh, the news of Rosh Chodesh would spread, and that way they didn't need messengers. But ultimately, it was a very sort of fragile, implementation, a fragile system, in that it was very easy to sort of abuse. The Kutim would just go up to the mountains on the wrong day with torches and confuse everybody. So then they had to do the more sort of complex and more difficult to execute approach, which was hiring and sending out messengers all over the place. Okay. Now, my mashma de masin lishna de yukud. Who? So the Gemara wants to know, when the Mishnah says masin masuos, how do you know that masin means to light a fire, to make a torch? The Chsiv is the pasuk says vayisoim David va'anoshav mitagminun ve'okdinun David. Well, it says that David and his comrades they basically burnt all the avodah zarah. So vayisaum means to burn. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, a masin masuos ela ala chodesh shenir bizmanu lekadsho. So the Brisa says that they would only do these torches on a Chodesh Chaser, on a 29-day month. 1 second, I'm just going to roll up my sleeves real quick. But on a 30-day month, there would be no torches, okay? Ve'mosu masiyin, and when would they light these torches? L'or iburo. Okay. On the night after the 30th day, remember the Achosar Avdinon, Amalu Avdinon, to say that they would only do the torches for a Achosar, not for Malay. Meaning, so basically, if it was friends, if it was a 29-day month, so what does that mean? It means, 29 days into the month, and then that night, the night following the 29th day, you would look up in the sky, see the new moon, and you would go to the Bezdin to testify. Now, I think it came up in the past that Bezdin is not Makadesh the Chodesh at night. So Memele, the next day, on day 30, is when it would be established, the people saw the moon last night. Today, day 30 is the first day of the next month. Today is Rosh Chodesh. And then, once they are Makadesh the Chodesh, so then that following night, the night following day 30, they would light all the torches, so that there would be an indication that, Memele today, day 30 was declared as Rosh Chodesh. But if nobody saw the moon the previous night, the night between day 29 and day 30, so Memele, a month is only ever 29 days or 30 days. So if it wasn't a 29-day month, so Memele, it's a 30-day month. So basically, when it was a Chodesh Chaser, so you live in the exile someplace, it's now day 30 of the month, and now is the big question. So, was today Rosh Chodesh, or is tomorrow Rosh Chodesh? So if that night, the night in between day 30 and 31, they saw all these fires on the mountaintops, so then they would know, today on day 30 was declared as Rosh Chodesh, and so it's the first day of the next month. If they do not see torches that night, if they do not see torches on the night between day 30 and day 31, so then Memele, day 30 was not the first day of the next month. So friends, what does that mean? Memele, the next day, day 31 of the previous month, is the first day of the next month, and the previous month was 30 days. So there was really only a need for the torches on the if it was a chodesh chaser, right? That on day 30 of the month, that the following night, everyone keeps their eyes open to see if there are torches. If there are torches that night, it means that Memele day 30 was the first day of the next month. If there are no torches, it means clearly then day 30 was not the first day of the next month, was not Rosh Chodesh. So then, by definition, then tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, and they have all the information that they need. Again, if there are the torches, it means it was a Chodesh Chaser. If there are no torches, Memele, it's a Chodesh Male. Let's go weiter. My timer. How come they would only do the torches one night? So we say, Amr Ibzere, says Ibzere, Gzer Mishum Rosh Chodesh Chaser Shechalios Be'erev Shabbos. So meaning, the question then becomes, why do they only have to do it on one night? Can't they just do it both nights anyways? Like, why not? Just like, on the, if day 30 was Rosh Chodesh, so on the night following day 30, between day 30 and 31, do the torches. If day 30 wasn't Rosh Chodesh, then Memele, day 31 is Rosh Chodesh, so do the torches that night. Kilo, why does it only have to be one night? So there's actually a real nafkamina. Because if you would do it for both, let's say we didn't only do it for Chodesh Chaser. Let's say we would always do the whole torch thing, whether it's a Chodesh Malay, whether it's a Chodesh Chaser. So if it's Chodesh Chaser, so then the torches would be on the night between day 30 and day 31. If it was a Chodesh Malay, so it would be on the night between the night following day 31, which is Memele, the first day of the next month, whatever. The kilo, why does it only have to be on a Chaser? Why can't we do the torch thing for whether it's a 29-day month or whether it's a 30-day month? So out of concern for the situation where day 30 is a Friday, what happens, friends, if day 30 is a Friday? Day 30 is a Friday. So the people saw the moon on Thursday night. They come to Bezdin, they testify about it. On day 30, which is Friday, Bezdin says Mekudosh, that it's Rosh Chodesh. So now, what do? Generally, that night, you would do the torches. Obviously, that night, you're not going to do the torches because it's Shabbos. So when can you do the torches? We have to let all the communities know that day 30, Friday, is Rosh Chodesh. How are we going to let the people know? We can't do the torches Friday night as an indication that Friday was Rosh Chodesh. So do Motzai Shabbos. But if we say that you would do the torches both on a 29-day month as well as a 30-day month, well then, when they do the torches Motzai Shabbos, they don't know. Are they doing the torches Motzai Shabbos because it was a 30-day month? So Kilo, are they doing the torches on Motzai Shabbos because Shabbos itself was Rosh Chodesh and it was a Chodesh Malay? Or are they doing the torches on Motzai Shabbos because Friday was Rosh Chodesh and they couldn't do the torches Friday night, so maybe they're doing it Motzai Shabbos. So if we do the torches for both a Chodesh Malay and a Chodesh Chaser, so then in a situation where the 30th day of the month is Friday, we're going to be in a shtickle pickle because on Motzai Shabbos, when they do the torches, we don't know if they're doing the torches because Shabbos was Rosh Chodesh or if they're doing the torches because Friday was Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, by saying that we only ever do the torches on a Chodesh Chaser, so then when the 30th day of the month is a Friday, and of course they're not going to be doing the torch Friday night, so they do it Motzai Shabbos, which is, Shabbos was day 31. So then when you light the torches on Motzai Shabbos, people say, well, okay, they're lighting the torch. Why are they lighting the torch on Motzai Shabbos? Shabbos was day 31. Obviously, we never do torches for a Chodesh Malay. So it must be that why are we doing torches? Okay, it must have been Chodesh Chaser, but they couldn't do the torches on Friday night, so they're doing it tonight. Right? But if it was a Chodesh Malay, they wouldn't have done torches at all. So from the fact that they're doing torches on Motzai Shabbos, so then it must mean that Rosh Chodesh was on Friday. Right? So the Omert Naivid Nami Amale, so just to kind of read it inside, if we would say that you would do the torches both for a Chodesh Chaser, a 29-day month, as well as a Chodesh Malay, a 30-day month, also limite, people are going to get confused. They won't know what to do because Amre, they're going to say, wait, is it that Hai Chaser that it was a Chodesh Chaser, that Rosh Chodesh was on Friday? The reason why they didn't do the torches Friday night, Mishum Delo Efshir, because it was Shabbos, or Dilma, or perhaps Malihu, Or maybe Taka, it was a Chodesh Mali, a 30-day month, and today Shabbos was Taka Rosh Chodesh. It was Manu of it, and the Dafka doing it Motzoi Shabbos at its proper time. So, if we would say that you do the torches both on a Chodesh Mali and a Chodesh Chaser in a situation where Rosh Chodesh is on Friday, the people would get confused. For the Ovid Ben Amole Ben Achoser, but one second, why don't we say no? You do it by both a Mole and the Chaser. So then what do you do when Rosh Chodesh falls out on Friday? We said the people would get confused. Loli Ovid Klal. Don't do the torch at all. And since we're not doing it on Motzoi Shabbos, v'avdinon amale, and in general we do it for a Chodesh Male, made the yade the chaserhu. Then you would know that it was a Chodesh Chaser. That works, right? Why don't we say that you always do the torch, whether it's for a 29-day month, whether for a 30-day month, or you always do the torch. What about the situation when Rosh Chodesh falls out on Friday? When Rosh Chodesh falls out on Friday, don't do the torch at all. And I'll say, I get it. It's Motzoi Shabbos, we're waiting for a torch, there's no torch, why not? Well, clearly it's not a Chodesh Male. It must be that it was a Chodesh Chaser, and they couldn't do last night because it was Shabbos, so they're not doing it at all. So Memele, it was a Chodesh Chaser, and Rosh Chodesh was on Friday. So the people still might get confused. How come? Amri, they're going to say, Hai Malehu, maybe Itaka was a Chodesh Male. So then why aren't they doing the torches if it was a Chodesh Male? Because after all, we're suggesting that you would do torches both on a Chaser and a Male. Isnuse de Isnuse. Well, it's Motzoi Shabbos after all. On Shabbos, the minig is to Fabrengen. And we all know what happens at Fabrengen. You get Fashnikit. And Motzoi Shabbos, maybe they were so taka Fashnikit and Platzen that they couldn't chaparayin and be dealing with torches. So therefore, people would get confused. If it was Motzoi Shabbos, and Friday was the 30th day of the month, Motzoi Shabbos would be day 31, and there's no torch, they would be confused. They say, is there no torch because Friday was Rosh Chodesh and they couldn't do the torch at night? Or is there no torch because today Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh, but everybody's so plastered that they Pashit didn't, can't do the torch. So they would get confused. Okay. Okay, but fine. So why don't we flip it around though? Why don't we say that instead of doing the torch for the chaser, do the torch for the male instead? Alright? Ketzad, where am I? Abaye says, well, if we had to choose either to do the torches on a Chodesh Chaser or the torches on a Chodesh Male, we choose the Chodesh Chaser because then we could do the torches sooner rather than later. Right? If you do it only on a Chodesh Male, so then what happens for, because then on Rosh Hashanah, we don't know, right? You're going to end up doing 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, and it's going to be Bittul Malach, you're not going to be able to work for 2 days, right? So if we do it on a Chodesh Chaser, so then comes day 30 of Elul, so they celebrate Rosh Hashanah, because, maybe that day is Rosh Hashanah. But now, so if it's on a Chaser, you do the torches, so then if it was a Chodesh, if Elul was a Chaser, so then on Motzoi, day 30 of Elul, i.e., day 30 they'll celebrate as Rosh Hashanah, and then if it was a Chaser, so in that night they'll see the torches, and they'll say, okay, today Memele was Rosh Hashanah, tomorrow is not. But if they do it only on a Male, so then after day 30, there would be no torches, so then they'd have to celebrate the next day also as Rosh Hashanah, just in case it's a Male, and then only the following night would they check to see if there's torches, and if there's torches, so then Memele, they were supposed to be doing Rosh Hashanah that day. If there's no torches, well then technically it was only a Chaser, it was only a 29-day month, in which case that day they didn't actually have to celebrate as Rosh Hashanah, they could have been working. So therefore, in order to prevent that situation, we only do the torches for Chodesh Chaser, and that is that. Moving on. Alright friends, now we're just going to basically talk about trees. Who knows about trees? Do people know about trees? Let's go weiter. So how would they make these torches? They would bring like poles of cedar. Amr of Yehuda says of Yehuda, Daladmini Arozen Hain. There are 4 types of cedars: Erez, Kasrom, Eitz Shemen, Uvrosh. Those are the 4 types of cedars. Kasrom, what's Kasrom? Amr Rav, Idra. Rav says that a Kasrom is an Idra. Dver Reb Shila Amri, by the Beis Medrash Reb Shila, they say Mavliga. They say it's not an Idra, it's a Mavliga. For Amila, some say Zogulmish. It's a Gulmish. Okay, anybody know what these trees are? You ever seen a Gulmish tree? I might say I wouldn't even know if I saw it. Ufliga de Rav Bar Funa, and this taka argues with Rav Bar Funa, Dam Rav Bar Funa Ami Beirav, Asar Mine Rozimim. So if Yehuda says that there are 4 types of cedars, says Rav Bar Funa there are taka 10. Who could name me them? No, who can name them? Come on, who can name the 10? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Etein Bamidbar, I will place in the desert Erez, Shita, Vihados, that's 3. Ve'et Shemen, that's 4. Osim Ba'arova, I will place in the desert. Brosh Tidar V'Sashur, Brosh Tidar and Tashur, that's 7. Yachdav together. And the Gemara is going to point out we only listed 7, but we were promised 10. Okay. Erez Arza, so Erez is a cedar. Shita Tornisa, a Shita is a pine. Hadas Asa, Hadas is a Hadasim. Eitz Shemen Afarsima, Eitz Shemen is balsam. Brosh Birta, Brosh is boxwood. Tidar Shaiga, Tidar is fir. Tashur Shorivna, Tashur is Shorivna. Hanishivna Havu. The Gemara points out, but wait, we were promised 10, but only got 7. Kyosur Rav Dimi Omar, Hosif Aleim, that when Rav Dimi came, he said that they added the final 3 were Alonim Amonim Amogim. Okay, what's Alonim? Botme. It's coral. Almonim Blute. Almonim is laurels. Almogim Ksisa. And, oh wait, no, 1 second. What's Botme? Botme is elm. Sorry. Alonim is Botme. Alonim is elm. Sorry for the confusion. Almonim Blute, whereas Almonim is laurels, and Almogim Ksisa, whereas Almogim is coral. Ikadamri, those who say Aronim Armonim Almogim, those who say that it wasn't Alonim Almogim, it was Aronim Almonim, but that Aronim Almogim are different things. Aronim are Are, which is, that's laurels? So what was the other thing? Oh, sorry, no, let's do it again. Okay, I'm going to back up a few lines. Kyosar Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, Amar, he said, Osif Alema Alonim Amonim Amogin, that they added on to the original 7, Alonim Amonim Amogin, okay? Alonim, what are Alonim? Botme. Those are, let's try to get it right this time, elms, okay? Amonim Blute, Amonim are oaks, Amogin is Ksisa, Amogim are coral. Those who say, Aronim Armonim Amogin, what are those 3 things? Aronim are laurels, Armonim Dove, whereas Amonim are chestnuts, and Amogin Ksisa, Amogim is coral. Got it? You ready for a quiz? Alright, let's go weiter. So the pasuk says regarding that pasuk, the pasuk says, we saw this at the end of Yoma, I was once talking to Reb Hillel about this pasuk. When I was still living in New Jersey. Anyways, it's the pasuk that describes the waters that are going to gush forth from the Kodesh HaKodashim when Mashiach comes. So it says, "V'tzi adir lo yavenu," that there's going to be so much water that a powerful boat will be unable to cross it. Amar Rab says, "Rab zo burne gedola." This is a big boat. Heichi avdu. What would they do with this big boat? So basically, we're going to describe now how they would basically collect coral. Right? They would go to Eilat, for example, go to some place where there's coral reefs, and they would dig up the coral reefs, and I guess they would sell them or something like that. Apparently they were very precious. Heichi Abdu, so what did they do with this big boat? So they would bring 6,000 people to work for a year. They said 12, they would bring, or maybe 12,000 people to work in 6 months, although, alright. I feel like it doesn't always work out that more people means higher velocity in the work, but it might also depend on what the job is. V'tayni la chala, and they would fill up the boat. They would basically sink the boat. They would fill up the boat with sand. Ad shachna, until it would settle at the bottom the coral reef. V'nochis bar amirai, and then divers, or probably more like snorkelers, would go down, and they would tie a rope of flax to the coral, and then also tie it to the boat, then they would remove the sand, they would remove all the sand, and then when the boat would rise to the top, it would pull with it the coral. Basically, there was coral that was on the seabed, I guess, and they wanted to extract it so that they could sell it. So how would you extract all of this coral? What they would do is they would take a very big boat, basically sink it until it was resting on the coral. They would then tie ropes to the coral and to the boat, and then they would remove all the sand that they put in the boat to sink it. They would remove all the sand. The boat would now float up to the surface, and with it would bring all of the coral, and then they would be able to sell the coral. And the coral was so expensive that it was twice the price of silver. I guess one measure of coral you can exchange for 2 measures of silver. Plus Parvasa Avion, there were 3 ports. Tarte Be'aramai, 2 Aramean ports, V'chadadve Parsai, and 1 Persian port. Ve'aramai Maskan Ksisa, in the 2 Aramean ports, they would do this. They would extract coral. In the Persian port, they would have divers that would extract pearls, and they would sell that. And the Persian port they would call the port of the king, of the kingdom. On Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, kol shite, any pine, kol shite v'shita shenotnu nachrim Yerushalayim, any pine tree that the Gentiles removed from Jerusalem, also the Eibishter is going to return the pine trees to Yerushalayim. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, etin b'midbar, that I will place in the midbar, in the desert, eretz shita, so these pine trees. Ve'in midbar elu Yerushalayim, and midbar, the desert, is a reference to Jerusalem. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Tzion midbar hayasa v'gomer, that Tzion, that Zion, that Jerusalem became like a desert. So the Eibishter is going to return the pine trees to Yerushalayim. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, kol alomei Torah ve'enu melamdo, anybody who studies Torah but does not teach it, dom lahados b'midbar, is similar to a hados, which is very fragrant, but in the middle of the desert where nobody can appreciate it. A fellow studies Torah but doesn't share it, doesn't teach it, so it's like a hados in the middle of nowhere. It's chaval. I once saw isn't there like a photo somewhere? Isn't there like a random like Gucci store in the middle of the desert or something like that? Is it real? Is it fake? I can't remember. But I think that's like a thing. Those who say that if you have a fellow who studies Torah and he teaches it in a place where there are no other Talmidei Chachamim, dom lahados b'midbar tichaviv. So, you can also explain it in a different way, that if a fellow goes to a place where they aren't so stark in the Limud HaTorah, and he goes there and he teaches Torah in this place, so he's similar to a hados, a very fragrant branch in a desert, in a place where there's nothing else there, but over there all of a sudden there's this beautiful fragrant branch, and it's appreciated by anybody who experiences it. Alright? From Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, woe is to the idol worshippers, that there's no fix for the terrible things that they have done. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, that the pasuk says, look, you can always swap out copper for gold. You can swap out for iron, you can replace it with silver. You could swap out for wood copper. And in place of the stones, you could replace it with iron. So for everything there's a replacement. Rabbi Akiva v'chaverov my meviin. But for Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues who were martyred by the Romans, how can you ever possibly replace a loss as great as that? For all these raw materials, iron, silver, whatever, okay, if you need to, you can replace it. Rabbi Akiva, irreplaceable. Valemu Omer, and about the Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues, I guess the Asar Rugim Malchus. So it says, "V'nikesi domam lo nikesi." While I could forgive those idol worshippers for all sorts of things, but domam lo nikesi, I cannot clean them. I cannot forgive them for the blood of Rabbi Akiva v'chaverov, of these Yidden that were killed on their account. V'nikesi, domam lo nikesi. Okay, so where would this whole torch thing happen? So it would start at Har Zaysim and then go to Beis Bilton. My Beis Bilton was Beis Bilton Amarav Zobirim. It's Birim, friends. My Gola, what's Gola? Rav Yosef Zo Pumbedisa. So Rav Yosef says that was Pumbedisa, that the torches would extend until Pumbedisa, and then from there, like, it would spread like wildfire. What does it mean that it would be like a big, that the whole Bavel would be like a big torch? That everybody would take a torch in their hands and go up to their roof. Tanya, in the Bryce, Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer, says Reb Shimon ben Elazar, that also would go in addition to Pumbedisa, also, and all these other locations, also Charim, Chayr, Gader, Chavrosel, and its environs, I guess. Those who say Bene Uvene Avukaime, those who say that all these places, Chayr, Gader, Chavrosel, Charim, those were all like in between all the locations listed in the Mishnah. Those who say that no, they were taka in a different side of Eretz Yisrael. Machoshev Da'agisa, I guess one opinion is taking into account one particular side of Eretz Yisrael, and the other opinion is taking into account a different area of Eretz Yisrael based on their opinion, if it was in between or parallel. Alright. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, bein kol achas v'achas shmona parsos, says Rabbi Yochanan that between each of the locations listed in the Mishnah, right? What were the locations listed in the Mishnah? There was Haramishcha, Sartava, Krofina, Chavron, Beis Bilton. So there were these 5 locations. Now, in between 5 locations, there are 4 gaps. Each gap was 8 parsos, right? So, Amar B'Yochanan, ben kol achas v'achas shmona parsos. In each of the 4 gaps separating the 5 cities, so there was 8 parsos. Kamahavaluhu tzasim v'tartin. So 8 times 4 is 32. Va'idna tuva avu. The Gemara says, but nowadays it's a lot more than 32 parsos between these locations. Amar Baya astatume istatum lu darche. So it says, yeah, the roads have gotten sort of all messed up. The pasuk says, "Lochin nishachas drachich basirim," as the pasuk says, I'm going to put in thorns in your paths. Rav Nachman Beitzruk says, "Rav Nachman Beitzruk me'achad tichsev v'nisivosai iva." Okay, the pasuk says, my paths have become crooked. Okay, sounds like a lot of fun. 32 parsos between these places. Now the paths are crooked. Says the Mishnah, Chatzor Gedola Ha'isa b'Yerushalayim. So when all these Yidden, the witnesses, would come on Shabbos to give a testimony about the new moon. So, as we learned, Masechta Eruvin, if you go outside of the Tchum Shabbos, now you're shtickle stuck. You can't go more than Daled Amos. So all these people who went past the Tchum Shabbos in order to deliver their testimony on Shabbos, so for them, Chatzor Gedola Ha'isa b'Yerushalayim, they had a big chatzor for these people in Jerusalem. Beis Yaizek Ha'isa Nikretz, it was called Beis Yaizek. Ulisham kol ha'edim miskansin, and there all of the witnesses would gather together in Beis Yaizek in this chatzor. Uvezdin bodkin osam sham, and that's where their interrogation would be. Right? Bezdin would ask them all sorts of questions about their testimony there in that chatzor. V'sudas gedolus osin loim, and they would have a big kiddush over there. So that the people would come. Right? Meaning, if you had to schlep out to Jerusalem and then you'd basically just be stuck there with no food and no nothing, so people would be reluctant to come and give testimony. But if they had a big Suda Darton and it was very nice, you could schmooze, maybe you could see people they haven't seen in a long time, it would be very nice, so then there's incentive to come and give testimony. A friend of mine told me once that there's something called JFK, that people come to shul just for Kiddush. I wonder if people came and gave her testimony also just for Kiddush. Mistame? Why would you assume not? Mistame. If there's a Kiddush, people are going to come. Alright. Where are we? Both can also sham v'sudis gedolas osin lo'em b'shvil shirigin lavo. Fine. Now, now initially they were basically prisoners in this courtyard because, as I mentioned a minute ago, if you go outside of Tchum Shabbos, then you can't go more than Daled Amos. So basically, once they would get into this courtyard, they were basically stuck in there until after Shabbos. Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan Hiskin, that's funny. I'm so used to Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, but no. Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel Azakin, Givaldig. Who is Rabbi Gamliel Azakin? Friends, think back to Masechta Shabbos Daf Tezvav. Masechta Shabbos Daf Tezvav, it says that the last 100 years of the Beis Hamikdash, the leaders were Hillel, his son Shimon, and then his son Rabbi Gamliel Azaken, and then his son Shimon, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. So there were two Rabbi Gamliels. There was Rabbi Gamliel Azaken, then his son was Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and then there was his son who was Rabban Gamliel, and then there was his son Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who was the father of Rebbe. So now we're saying it's Rabbi Gamliel Azaken. So it's Rabbi Gamliel Azaken, who was the Nasi, I don't know, let's just say around 50 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. I'm only saying that because if there were 4 Nasis in the last 100 years, so I guess on average, I don't know how long they actually served for, but if we say on average, so I guess then that would be like sometime around 50 years or less of the Beis Hamikdash to remain. So Shiyu Ma'alchan Alpaim Amel Choruach, so Rabbi Gamliel Azaken made a takane that they can actually walk 2,000 amas. They basically adopt the Tchum Shabbos of I guess wherever they were, so that they can go 2,000 amas in any direction. They weren't limited to 4 amas. And this isn't the only case where they say that you kind of take on 2,000 amas in any direction. A midwife who comes to assist in a birth, or a fellow who comes to save people from a fire, or from soldiers, or from a flooding river, or from like a collapsed structure. They basically take on the Tchum Shabbos of the people in the location that they went to, and they can go 2,000 amas in any direction. In any of these sort of emergency cases, these people take on the Tchum Shabbos of the place where they traveled to. Says the Gemara, they want to know Beis Yazik Tanan or Beis Yozik Tanan. We said that this chotzer, that this courtyard that they would go to, so it was called, right in Jerusalem, it was called Beis Yazik. The Gemara wants to clarify, was it really Beis Yazik or maybe it was Beis Yozik? Beis Yazik Tanan Lishna Ma'ayu. So Beis Yazik would be more of a positive spin, positive vibes. The Chsiv, as the pasuk says, Vayazkeu Vayiskaleu, that they fenced it in and they removed stuff from the ground. Or Dilmor, perhaps Beis Yozik Tanan Lishna de Tzairuhu, or maybe it's Beis Yozik, which is more of a shvera, more down, chaval kind of saying of it. Dichsiv, implication, vibes, energy. Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, V'hu osur ba'azikim, that he was tied up in shackles. Yeah, that seems more chaval. So Abai says, well, they would have a big kiddush over there. Kiddushes are good vibes if you're into that. I don't go to kiddushes. I'm not a kiddush guy. I leave for the kiddush usually, actually. That's the truth. If there's a kiddush, usually I'm out of there. I'm not a kiddush guy. What am I going to do at a kiddush? No, I'm out of there. But I'm probably the exception rather than the rule. Anyways, right, I'm the exception rather than the rule, so forget about me. The people like their kiddushes, and therefore kiddushes we're going to assume are good vibes, and therefore Abaye wanted to say that kiddushes are good vibes, and therefore it must be Beis Yazik as opposed to Beis Yozik. To which the Gemara says, Dilma Tarte Avu Avdebu, maybe the Taka would do both. Maybe there's it can go either way. Like maybe it's good vibes, but also like weird vibes. So I don't know. I guess it's like, I don't know. I guess it's not definitive if it was Beis Yazik or Beis Yozik. Friends, let's move on. Now, says the Mishnah, Ketzad Botkin Edim. Now, what kind of questions would they ask the witnesses? Zug Sheba Rishon Botkin also Rishon. Okay, so it's first come, first served. Whichever witnesses came first, they would be checked first. And they would bring in the greater of them. Okay, fine. I don't know how they determine that, but and they say to him, Emor, tell us, tell him, describe for us the moon. Was it before the sun or after the sun? Now, obviously, of course, it's always going to be after the sun. As we described the moon recently, it starts kind of before the sun, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's like you can't see it for 24 hours, and then it, kind of passes by the sun. Now it's after the sun. So, was it before the sun or after the sun? The tzvonu l'drom, was it to the north or to the south, which is essentially the same thing as before or after? The Gemara is going to ask that. Kamaya gavoa, how high in the sky was it? And where was it? It's like horns kind of pointing towards. How wide was it? So if he says that the moon was before the sun, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because then he's talking about the moon at the end of the previous month. And then they would bring in the second fellow and check him out. If they both gave appropriate, acceptable testimony, and they were both aligned with each other's testimony, so edusan kayemis, so it's a good testimony, and zeo, they basically have the material that they need. Now, what about all the other pairs? What if the first pair was accepted? What about all the other pairs who came to the Kiddush? So they would still bring them in as well, sort of as more of a formality. They would ask them just kind of basic things, because after all, they didn't need these people anymore. Just so that, nobody should feel like I schlepped all the way to Yerushalayim for this Kiddush, and nobody even asked me any questions. Right? I came all this way, and they didn't even need me. So what happens the next time? Forget about the Kiddush. I'm not schlepping. I came all the way. Nobody even asked me basic questions. It's a waste of my time. So therefore, in order to avoid that situation, they bring in all the witnesses. Even if they already have the testimony that they need, they still come in. But if they already have the testimony that they needed, so they'll ask these witnesses, like at this point, they'll just ask them, basic things, just so that nobody should get insulted, really. Okay, friends, we'll stop here. That was Daf Chav Gimel, Masechta Rosh Hashanah. What do you guys think? So the first part of the daf, we kind of talked about these torches and how it would daf only be on when it was a Chodesh Chaser, not a Chodesh Maleh, for all sorts of technical reasons. Then we talked about the different type of cedars. Rav Yehuda said that there were 4 of them. Rabbi Bar Huna said there were 10 of them. We talked about how they would extract coral from the sea. Then we discussed that in Yerushalayim, for the people who came on Shabbos, there would be like a big kiddush in a courtyard. We didn't know if the court was called Beis Yazik, or the courtyard was called Beis Yazik or Beis Yazik. So therefore, we basically leave it up to you. How about this, friends? How about this? I have a good idea. Well, I'll leave that up to you to decide if it's a good idea. When Mashiach comes, and you come to give Edus for Kiddush HaChodesh, go to Yerushalayim and say, tell me where Beis Yazik is. And if they tell you where it is, then it's Beis Yazik. If they say, I don't know what you're talking about, try, tell me where Beis Yazik is. And if they say, Beis Yazik, okay, yeah, it's right there. So we'll do that little test. So when Mashiach comes, we'll figure it out, and you'll write in WhatsApp. Givaldik. And then we talked about the interrogation. They would kind of ask the people questions, and then if the witnesses, their testimony aligned with each other and also made sense in terms of what Bezdin knew to be true about the moon, so then their testimony would be accepted. Once their testimony was accepted, all the other witnesses, they would still bring them in and ask them basic questions. They didn't really need their testimony at that point, but just said nobody should get insulted, and said they'll come back in the future to give testimony. Friends, peace.